Another hobby of mine that I did for quite a while when I was a teen, but haven't really done that much since entering college, was candle making. I made quite a few candles when I was in high school, but after college I kind of didn't do it as much. It's very messy. Whenever I'd accidentally spill wax on things, it would be very hard to get it back off again. So it was a pretty messy investment, and it was kind of not one of those things that you could start and then decide you're done for the day and then set it down and then pick up again. You kind of had to be pretty invested and keep at it until it was finished. I started out with paraffin wax, which with that you would melt the wax. What I would do is I would take a pot of boiling hot water, and then I'd put inside the boiling water another pot that you put the wax in, and then it would melt the paraffin wax, and then I'd put my dye and fragrance in it, which usually I got dyes and fragrances from Hobby Lobby, and would pour those into the wax pot and would stir it together. And then once it was completely melted, I'd take the little molds that I had and would pour the wax inside of it up to a certain point. The molds would have little votive shapes, and then at the end would be kind of a lip, so you would start right before the lip. You'd stop right there with the paraffin wax, and then would let it set until, or first then you would wait until there was kind of this film kind of forming around the edges of the mold, and then you would put the wick inside of it and kind of dunk it and hold it there until it kind of stuck to the middle, and you would have to come and keep checking on it and keep pulling the wick back to the center, because as it dried it would kind of the wick would start to move over. So you would have to keep moving the wick over to the center part of the votive, and then after it was completely dry, it will have sunk in quite a bit, so then you melt the wax some more and inside the pot, and then you pour more wax into the votive, this time kind of almost filling up all the way to the lip, and almost like creating almost kind of a bubble on the top of it, and then let it dry, and then you'd be done with the votive candle. I also had some other candle molds that you did a similar process, but they were different shapes. I think I've made like star and heart shaped ones so far. Sometimes I would layer it differently so that I could do multicolored waxes. What I really liked the most, though, was the palm wax, which I had like these kind of seedy, textured little seeds of wax. That was a palm wax, and it's supposed to be better for allergies and also better for the environment. And also it didn't do the sink in thing, so I could pour the wax and then it dry and then be done, instead of having to melt and then re-pour some more wax into the container. So it was easier working with that one. It is a little more expensive than paraffin, though. This is where some of my old votive. This is one of my votive candle molds here. This is the lip that I was talking about. So usually I'd fill it up to this line, and then the second time fill it up to there, and then I've got candle wax. One time I made with a couple of girls from church, we made a really cool multicolored palm wax candle out of this, which with the palm wax you still have to move the wick over to the center a couple of times, but not as much as if it was paraffin. Here's one of my favorite fragrances. I loved the coconut flavor. My last batch of candles, I made a box of coconut scented candles for a friend of mine for Christmas, I think, a couple years ago. This is the pot that I melt the wax in. Ooh, it smells really good. The fragrance kind of sticks around, but this is the pot that I put inside the boiling pot, which I gotta hold the handle to make sure that it doesn't spill over and water get all in it. I haven't really made any candles out of this successfully. It's a little big, but I've made a couple with this size before. I've made a lot of votives. It came with a thermometer, which the wax was supposed to get to a certain temperature, which I tried doing that at first, but I eventually just kind of would melt the wax until it was completely melted, not worry about the temperature so much. Got lots of different fragrances here. I got blueberry muffin, Cranberry. Birds of Paradise was one of my favorites, but I liked the coconut fragrance a ton. There's Cranberry Citrus. Amish Harvest. I went through a really big Amish phase in my middle school years, which is part of the reason why I got into candle making. So, let's see, almond pastries, that one smelled really good. Downy Fresh, I always thought that was a funny flavor. And then I would stir with these, and then I had some kind of ropey looking wicks like this. They weren't my favorite to work with. I liked the ones that had more of the plastic texture, and normally they would have a little metal stand thing right at the bottom, and then it would kind of glue to the bottom of the mold. So those are some of my equipment that I used for candle making. Probably my best candle that I made was my dad took 2 halves of a coconut and shaved and cut it down to where I could put white coconut scented wax inside one of the coconut shells, and then the other half of the coconut shell was the stand that held the other one, and then put wicks in it. I entered that in the state fair and won a prize for it one year, and then also one time I got a plastic shell, kind of an orange looking plastic conch shell that was fake from Hobby Lobby, and then made bright blue wax with ocean fragrance and put some wicks in it, and then gave that to my sister, I think, for a housewarming gift one time when she moved. So those were kind of my best candles there. But I made probably a billion different votive candles, but those were kind of my best extra candles.